We're going?
Mhm.
Well, today I thought that I would talk about the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Now, if you really tied me to that statement all by itself, it would lend me to be a minimalist. Because that would be keeping everything simple, right? Although uh, a minimalist has to worry about what happens when their health goes bad or they have a health problem or somebody hurts them, where their next meal is. Life can still be very, very complex. And but what I want to talk about is not totally a total lifestyle of everything being simple, because just life isn't that simple. Even the way we eat, the way we sleep, things we do, everything requires us to have some complicated function. Even the way we function as a working organism, my wife talks about as a nurse all the time that you have to have ABC, which
Airway,
is
breathing, circulation.
airway, breathing, circulation. That is the the body is a miracle of complex things that cannot be duplicated. They can try to put a pig's heart in you or give you an artificial heart, but it is not the same thing as the original. It is not duplicated. Okay, it is extremely complex. And that surgery in itself is, they cut you open, fillet you out, and the pain never goes away from that. So you're never going to be the same. Okay. We are exceptionally complex, and we take for granted the things as adults that when we were little, say when we were crawling and we saw people walking, you're like, wow, that was so hard to do. I remember coffee tables I thought would be the death of my children because they kept smacking their head into. I got rid of the coffee table because they kept smacking their head into it. So we had no coffee table. They would come off of the couch and bang. They would fall down, bang, their little soft noggins. It was hard. It was complex for them to be able to walk without falling. And that we all went through that. We all learned everything along the way. You cannot get away from complexities. So what am I talking about when I talk about keep it simple, stupid? Keep it simple, stupid. That's KISS. What I want to point to when it comes to keeping it simple is don't forget all those basic things that are needed. Keep it simple that way. Think about what you need. You need the proper amount of rest. You need the proper amount of food. You need the proper amount of exercise, because this engine that we operate requires us to have some exercise. We can't just not do anything. We won't live very long. And how many 100-year or 90-year-old very overweight people do you see? Okay, so it requires us to keep it focused on those simple things of not overeating, not over drinking, not doing anything in massive excess. Keep it simple. I'm going to talk to you some more about that, but let's talk about how we view ourselves first. Quite often, we think of ourselves as somebody fraught with imperfection and flawed, and we carry this guilt of maybe something that we did wrong, and uh, we end up being unhappy because we don't have what we want. But it really is happiness about the things that we don't have. we can have them and then we're happy. I heard it said that happiness it comes from knowing what you can do without, something like that. So you understand you don't need those things to be happy. I would give you an example. Uh, Whenever they do interviews of children and boat people, that live over water, and they're poor because they don't have any land. They're living on the water in shacks, or just any place you want to talk about. Argentina, Africa, those third world countries. They go and interview those people and those little children, and they're smiling and happy. You know, they don't know about all the things that we have that we take for granted, like electricity, running water. Yeah. We don't have as much a problem with child death. We don't have health issues that they do. They have not very many doctors for the population, and the simplest of things can hurt somebody. Even here in the United States, if you go back 100 years, if somebody, the guy who was in charge of building the George Washington Bridge in New York, I think it was, he was massively successful, but he was walking in a street and a carriage ran over his foot. Doctors looked at him. He got his foot infected. That infected the rest of his body. He died from a carriage running over his foot. His wife took over the building of that bridge because she knew everything he did. So what do we get from all these complexities? Is it happiness? How do we get that happiness? And I'm not going to say that I have the absolute or the guaranteed. What I'm saying to you, way of making happiness, what I'm saying to you is step back a little bit and try to see if you can see the simple things that you need to be happy. A model, if they're honest, can tell you where their flaws are. They know exactly where their flaws are. They're focused on everything that is not perfect with them. And if they're not, somebody's going to tell them in that trade, hey, we need to do a little bit of airbrushing on the right here, and surgeons that we can maybe straighten that out for you, all that kind of thing. But we all get old, and you can't get away from the fact that you will gradually deteriorate and die eventually. So what is all this race to be the best looking, but the idea that we all instinctually want to find somebody attractive to have children with? Really what the instinct is about. So what does it actually take to be happy with a person? Well, you both would need to be capable of understanding what not to say, as important as is what to say. So if you're doing bad things and you say great things and say all these compliments, how well do you think that's going to go over? How happy do you think she's going to be when you are hitting her in the face one time and saying I love you the next time? See what I'm saying? That's not keeping it simple. What happens is the situation that we all get ourselves into gets us all uptight and stressed out, me included, and we sit there and worry about things when in reality, a lot of the times there's nothing you can do about it. It's just, you can work hard at it when the sun comes up, or maybe you can do something around the house to make yourself feel better. But should you be unhappy and angry? Is that what, should you learn from it? Probably. But keeping it simple is understanding that you need to be able to see the sun come up, enjoy the pleasure of someone else's company, have children around you that you can see the future is going to be in their hands, whether they're your children or not. That's the future. So understanding that there's creation all around us. You know, the simplest of things are quite often just as complex as they can be. I mean, the amount of spiders that are in a square foot in your manicured yard is amazing amount of spiders in that area. 1 square foot. All the different kind of bugs that are out there, even though they spray, they travel over there until they die. How about people that watch birds? There's they go through their whole life and don't see all the birds that there are to see, and they see all the different markings. And you know, even though it's a yellow finch, there's different types of yellow finches. So does that mean that because they're never going to accomplish all of it in their lifetime, does that mean they should be unhappy? So keeping it simple, stupid, is basically understanding that life is complex, but relationships and decisions and stress, those are within your grasp. I tell young guys all the time, it's like you go into your life thinking that, hey, I want to find a woman that I can be with, and or you know, we can be partners, and you kind of get it in your head that we're going to be that way forever. But because life happens, and perhaps they say way too many things as opposed to the wrong things, as opposed to the right things, that relationship continues to deteriorate. It's sort of like a bank account. The more, if you take out more than you put in, it goes bankrupt and it closes. So, and it can be the same way with women. So, women should treat and say things to men that doesn't draw them down. If they want somebody to protect them, to be or to work with them, if you treat a dog poorly, they're going to be mean. Is that what you want? You want a poorly trained, mean animal living with you? So you're going to, or are you going to encourage that animal? No, a guy or a woman is not an animal. Or are you going to encourage them to to do things? Now, how would you beat them with a stick to do things? Well, you can do that, but you don't get somebody that's going to want to be around you. Those are animals that put up with that. People generally don't put up with that, and it's not the people you want to be around if you did. So again, the basic principles are understand you don't, and this is what I tell the young guys, you don't own that woman. That's the, you know, hey, I got the woman and we're together and now I got to get a nice car and a house and all those things because you're trying to accomplish things, but you don't own that woman. Okay, so you should appreciate that woman while you have the time with that woman. You should learn to see all the integral things that come with the complexities of a woman and then just enjoy what little bit of time you have with that woman, and think of it as short-lived. It may disappear tomorrow because you don't own that woman. She can leave because she just wants to. And a woman should think of the men or the boys the same way. There's no guarantee that that guy's going to be around. He could have a health issue. He could have a car accident. He could just not want to be a person of any true value. You should learn to appreciate those simple things. Those things that don't necessarily mean anything to anybody else. Because I was listening to this one guy, he was like saying, well, you know, if you're trying to please other people, if you don't buy a new car every year, they're going to say, hey, he's driving an old car. They're always going to have something to say. Not driving as nice a car as me or somebody else. They don't know what they're doing when they bought that new car because it wasn't a good choice. Is that really keeping it simple? Are we trying to get too complex? Are we trying to misunderstand? There are decisions that we have to make, but we need to just make them with a very simple eye, keeping your eye simple.
We have a question.
Sure.
The Childers family says, I'm building a ramp on my shed and the joist is a 2x4 and I'm trying to connect a ledger board to it and there isn't enough room when I drop it down for clearance of shed door.
So you got to connect to the 4x6s or 4x4s underneath and bring it out. Does that make sense? The supports that your shed is sitting on is either a 4x4 or a 4x6. You need to put a 2x6 or usually it's a 6, height, 4-inch wide. So you're going to fasten to that. It could be on the outside of that way you can reach it, and then bring that out right flush with the shed itself. That way you can put your ledger board on that. It can be 1.5 inches back if you want, but that allows you to fasten something. Then you can put something in between so that it doesn't move. And then you put your ledger board, as you were saying, on that. What you could do is the runners, and you would want at least 3 to get that ramp. You get your board there, and then you put the distance, say I say a 4 foot wide. I would put 4 on a 4 foot wide on 16-inch center. So you got the outside, then 16 inches, then 32, then 48. When I would put the outside one where I want it. So you're going to center from the doorway probably. You don't have to. If you're not only going to use one side of that door, if it's a double door, you could set your whole ramp onto that side. But anyway, find your center, go over 2 feet, and then go every 16 inches back. Now, how would I do that? I wouldn't use the clips or the metal brackets. I would just put if you're doing a 2x6 there, I would put the outside one first, fasten it in a temporary fashion there, put a 2x6 that's 14.5 inches, allowing for 3/4 from the center to get you a 16. So 14.5 inches in between, and you fasten that to your board that we brought out and ran across, and then you screw through your first runner or floor joist into that 14.5, and now you can do the same thing on the other side with the next runner at 16 inches. Then you put another 14.5, and then another floor joist or runner, and then another 14.5, and then that's your outside. That should put you at 4 foot wide. And you can drop it down to 3 foot, and then you probably would do 3 runners and have 18 inches center. So you would have to it'd be a bigger board instead of using brackets. So you're screwing to that board that you're putting in between, which gives it added support. And it's usually much more affordable, and it doesn't give you all the hassles that a bracket will. So I'd bring it out from the runners from underneath and then go from there. Does that help?
Will a 2x4 hold the weight, or do I need a 2x6?
A 2x4 will hold the weight, but you'll have to support it underneath. 2x6 would be better, but you just support it underneath. You can do that by putting a 2x4 on the bottom side and then toenailing it at angles through the bottom of your 2x4s that are running for support. And then you can then put whatever you want to support that 2x4 that ties it all together on the bottom. Or you could just run little scrap pieces down to a rock or a half pad broken in half to that, so it doesn't sit on the dirt, and that would support it where you want it before you put the top on it. That way you can reach it. You can do it with 2x4s. It's just they're a little more flimsy. So I hope that helps. And I generally try to tie them together on the bottom. And, you can do that. You can literally build a ramp, and I have many times. Once you get your angle cut where you're cutting that 2x4 down to a point, you can take that first one and say, okay, that sits good. Or you can just dig it into the ground and it will rot eventually. But that fits good. Now I need to duplicate it. You take and you duplicate it. However, if you're going to be 4 foot, you're going to be 3 more duplicates of that one and then put them up. That way you don't have to dig into the ground and have it rot, in theory. Uh, when it gets down to the thickness is 3/4 of an inch, generally you're not gonna have much to, it's not gonna be able to. It's going to be so thin after that that it won't hold up. The board will break whenever somebody steps on it. So you're going to end up stopping around 3/4 or 1 inch in the angle. Again, any questions? I'll be happy to share with you. I just got through doing, well, about 4 months ago. I did a big ramp for a big shed in the backyard of another person's house, and that way they could pull their lawnmower up in there, and we did something very similar to that. We built shelves on the inside. uh, so to get back, I wish you all the best on that too. To get back, our happiness comes from being able to understand that we're doing the best we can with what we have, and we're not perfect people. We're not going to be. That's actually the one of the most unique things about us is we're none of us perfect, just not. And a pretty person doesn't make you smile more than a ugly person. An ugly person can say the and do the funniest things and make you happy and funny.
James Dewey.
Yeah, we have examples. He's a fantastic guy. He's just a really nice guy, but he's not a looker. He would be embarrassed if I even mentioned it. So understand, for us to be smiling and happy for however length of time, it's not the beauty of things that we are ourselves or what we make that actually make us happy. It's understanding the very basic things of the human nature that we interact with. Yes, there are some really mean people, and they can ruin your good mood. So you can try to change things and get away from that. Even if that happens, you can then decide, hey, I'm going to have to learn how to get around that and still find some happiness, so I'm not tortured all the time. I think that guys that were in in these they were being tortured in Vietnam by the Vietnamese that were unhappy that we were there. They found ways to be happy and to enjoy what little bit of life they had, because what are they going to do? Focus on all their torture and starving and death? So what we need to do is to focus on doing the right things as much as we can, finding those very, very simple things that everybody has available to us. We all can enjoy a sunset and a sunrise. There's no charge for it. There's any number of beautiful things to see with nobody else there. It's for us. And when we're gone, the way we see it through our eyes, nobody else is going to see it the same way we do. We could, each one of us, look at a picture and see something different than what the next person will, from a different angle. They're the same pieces in there, but we see it. So understand, it's up to us to decide to see the beauty in what we have, what we are, what we will be, and how we can interact with one another. So if you have a portable building, well, how about this? If you have a tent that you live in, should you be unhappy? Does that mean you need to be unhappy? No, that's not necessarily. There are people who live in minivans and their car, and it's because they choose to do that. There's whole videos on YouTube about the van life. They tell you all the things you can do to make enough money to go on down the road to the next thing, how to work online, how to work on temp jobs, how to, all the things they tell you, and they talk about it, as a freedom. So does that mean they have to be unhappy because they don't have a fancy house or for that matter, a fancy car? No. So if you're living in a camper or a portable building, does that mean you should be unhappy? No. You see what I'm saying? Those things that we have in our life, all of them have the potential to make us happy with what we've got. It's right there staring in front of us. All if we're broke down on the side of the road, it's an unhappy time because we didn't expect that we would have to walk. But 100 years ago, 150 years ago, pretty much everybody walked. Might have a horse. You had to maintain that horse. Every now and then that horse get tired. It had to be fed. It had to be watered. It might die. Somebody might steal it. You know, these things that we take for granted are all possible things that we can be happy about. And we should be happy the fact that we have enough health. We have the eyesight. If somebody was listening to this that didn't have eyesight, are they supposed to be unhappy because they don't have eyesight? I hope I'm leading you to, what I'm trying to get across. I'm not trying to force you to think about things. What I want you to do is understand that we can be happy with things that other people would never be happy with. And that's their choice to be unhappy. Okay? We can't force them to be happy, but we can work on us. And the only way we can is not demand that we have everything and more to be happy. But really, if you're living in a mobile home, should you be unhappy? And if you're living in a mobile home, should you be unhappy because you moved out into a fancy house? No. The real happiness is within us. You have to understand that. The joy that we have that we can breathe, we don't appreciate until we can't breathe. We don't, those people who have COPD, there you go, good example. They're wishing that they could breathe right. Emphysema. They wish, of course, they have reasons for why that happened, but maybe they just got smoke inhalation damage, and they're wishing that they could have the breathing ability that they had when they were younger, or somebody else right across the room. Should they be unhappy because they don't have it? No, they can be happy. But should we not appreciate the simplest of things that we take for granted? The times when we smile.
Another question. I have carpenter bees destroying my new deck. They have left holes everywhere. What can I do?
They literally live in the woods. They start off there. They live in the trees, and they like the wood. What I have done for other people, not my idea, that was their idea, with log cabins particularly, or log siding, is every hole that they make, they put their babies inside so that those babies can come out and come back to the same place, same general area. Because they're inside that wood, they're not going to die in the winter time. They're going to come out in the summertime. So what they were having me do was squeeze boric acid in the hole and then fill it up with a silicone, so that those little babies would get out and get into boric acid, and it would kill them. That's a hardcore way to deal with it, but I don't know that there's any other way to deal with it. Because if you leave the little babies in there, they probably would eat their way out. I'm not an expert at that. So you would find either a paintable caulking that you can touch up with paint, or you would find a caulking that already has that color. And there's quite a few colors out there. Home Depot has a massive amount, and there's more than Home Depot has. And I believe you can even order specific colors if, from different places. But that's boric acid, uh, and I'm not sure there's much else you can do. And by the way, the whole time that you're doing it, they're going to be like, they don't ever sting. They seem to scare the living daylight out of you at first because you think they're like bumblebees are going to be attacking you, and that buzz around your head, it makes you think, oh my God. And I was on a 2-story, 3-story log cabin up on scaffolding, and you don't want to be jumping around, fall off the scaffolding. Of course, it make the bees more satisfied because now their babies will grow and come back. And so you're going to have to go through the battle. And I'm sure there's some other secret that I don't know, but that's what we did. Boric acid inside the hole, then fill the hole. All right. The babies are inside there. I'm sure you could do more studying on that. But I don't know anything that keeps those things away other than they would rather not have to deal with loot, not being able to go back and put whatever they're putting inside that hole. If it's full, now they have to start over. So you have to literally fight against erosion by bugs, which we kind of, that's what termites are like too.
What's your opinion that termites are more attracted to mobile homes than regular homes?
Certainly not true. Not even close to true. As a matter of fact, I think it's the opposite, and I don't know why. It is rare that I've ever seen a mobile home with termites, but a ton of houses out there are attracted, or the termites are attracted to. And I think it might be because linoleum and plastics and the carpet has formaldehyde, and back in the day they used to have paneling, and that would have formaldehyde on it. It would be so strong that it would burn your eyes. Okay, and you had to buy chemicals to get it to where you could live there. As a matter of fact, one of the storms down in New Orleans, the federal government paid for all these campers and to come down there. They were made, and they had so much formaldehyde in there that they were afraid it was damaging people. People were saying, "Oh my goodness, I'm having allergic reaction to this." So they had to leave those things. They wouldn't even let them into Louisiana, and I know that because I saw the stories about it, and I've actually seen people who bought those campers, and eventually they cleaned them up for smell, left them open. Use the chemicals that it takes to get rid of that. But for whatever reason, they don't. It's rare that I've seen the times. There's probably 3-4 times in my life, and I've seen probably thousands of mobile homes that I've worked on. You gotta understand, at one point I set 150 double wides in a year and a half. Just set them brand new. So I've seen a lot of mobile homes. 4 maybe had problems with termites, and there was always the addition, not the mobile home itself. So I don't know what it is about mobile homes, but they don't seem to want to go there. Another thing that happens that attracts termites to the mobile homes on those situations where they use wood skirting. And I see this now on a lot of these little homes. As a matter of fact, I had somebody call me up, wanted to know if I wanted to take over fixing this lady's up. She bought a little home. Is a real nice, it's actually what they call a park model. It's a mobile home, but it's made for small parks. And she bought one, and she wanted wood skirting. I said, well, I don't. He said, what do you think about that? I was like,
That's a bad plan.
I wouldn't do that. You're asking for bugs, carpenter ants, regular ants, termites. These are an example. The termites like that wood. And so, even still, I've not seen very many, like I say, 4 mobile homes, I think. That's the instinct that comes up to me. I couldn't really tell you where I saw them. That's about what I think. And they were not They were generally in the additions. So that wouldn't even be what, I don't know what they're doing to mobile homes to cause. They need to pass on whatever technology, which I doubt seriously it's technology, that they have in the mobile homes that they're not attracted to them like regular houses. And you know the termite insurance that you get, that's with a guarantee that that house is at least 13 inches off the ground, and they want a little metal plate generally at the top of each pier so that they don't crawl over. Um, so you know you're the termite damage that I've seen, and I've seen some massive termite damage, generally on very, very old houses. But that termite insurance, what they do is they spray the ground all around it. Um, but you know, honestly, I don't, I'm not sure the chemicals are good for people. I don't know any. I know I've known a lot of bug sprayers and chemical guys, and I don't know any of them that are spectacularly healthy. Um, Not trying to be mean to those guys, but if they were all sitting around, we are all bumping shoulders, they'd be telling me about their health problems, like gout, like whatever. We all have them, but those guys, they're not known for being healthy. So I'm not sure the spraying for bugs is good for people. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I use chemicals. I'm around chemicals, so I suggest that it is probably the chemicals in the wood, in the atmosphere where they make those mobile homes, and then it sits there and it collects that aura of chemical around the bottom of that mobile home, which would be where they would generally collect. Um, you know, even on masonite siding, they don't seem to be attracted to that stuff.
Um, can you explain the difference from a regular septic versus an aerobic? Is one better than the other?
Okay, what the aerobic, it generally uses a pump to spray, as I recall.
And regular is anaerobic, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's regular. It just goes out into the ground, and is one better than the other? Usually, you use them for different circumstances. I don't think it's one where you make a choice. Uh, so if that's why they have septic designers in our county, in multiple counties around here. You have to go to the county, and it's not a perk test straight up. It's they go out there and just see how the earth is for absorbing what it is you're going to be putting in there, and then they design it. So what you're basically, and yes, I know that places, you know, they'd be happy to have you building a home and doing these things so that they can get you to be a part of their county and spend money there and they get a tax base. I get it. You know, I don't think you need one unless, you know, your dirt, you know, is not absorbing properly. So just a basic septic tank is what you want. Uh, when you can't, then you start doing multiple chambers, pumps that pump up like sprinkler list, and it sprays out, and you got a nice green yard, but you don't want to be out in your yard at certain times. Um, so, you know, there's a lot of designs, and some of those designs are quite expensive. So, what you're trying to do is, and this is something I want to pass on to all of you guys. As much as they want everything to go into the septic tank, the cleaners from the wash machine and the cleaners that you put down your sink, your dishwasher, that kills microbes that are inside your septic tank. You end up having to add microbes until it kicks in and does what it's supposed to do, which is break down the solids. So, you know, they want all your sewer to go in there because they don't want your sink or your bathtub, which has the shampoos and the soaps. They don't want all that going out into the yard. We can't have that. But you know how much less septic you would have if you didn't have that going into your septic with all the cleaners. Okay. Um, you go to clean your toilet. You put mop your floor, and that's dumping into your, So I'd suggest a lot of times what the real problem is the cleaners are going in there and killing all the microbes, allowing things to get hardened on the end of your septic drainage lines, and it doesn't break down as much as it should inside the septic itself. But probably the worst thing that I deal with over and over and over again are things that don't belong in the sewer.
Tampons, wipes.
Ear stuff, wipes, uh, tampons, which get really big, um, grease. That is the biggest enemy. People just dump and wash their greasy pan down into the drain, and every time it goes through there, it coats that 3 inch or 4 inch pipe until that, whenever that 40 years later, maybe even less, it ends up being the size of a quarter. Gets clogged up all the time. You pour down chemicals to get that grease out. It just kind of moves it down a little further. I've seen it where that 3 or 4 inch line be solid grease. The top of the septic tank, solid grease. Okay, that is probably the worst enemy of a septic tank there is. So if you have greasy pans, think about putting that grease into another container. You know, put it somewhere else other than your septic tank. So I don't think that septic tanks are designed to handle all the things that we put into it. It's certainly not designed to have grease in it. It's certainly not designed to have chemicals. You know, you can add things. So I don't think you need the complexities as much as just a basic septic tank for most things. But you might understand that a bathtub sink or sinks, bathtub, they do damage to that septic system. And don't take my word for it. Look it up. So that's what I want to leave that with you. Try to keep it simple. Again, what we're talking about, unless your dirt requires something more than the basic, you don't need to worry too much about it. If you're doing it probably once in the next 30 years, you want it to last. You don't have to dig it up and redo it. But whenever they do the design for your septic tank, it's on the premise that you have enough room to do it again. So you can't just do it in the back of a 1/4 acre lot. You got to have the room for those lines and then another set of lines later, because they know that those lines are going to harden up and fill up. So, if you're going to be running septic, you need to have a room, and you need to have the dirt that will absorb it. And the design of that basic septic tank requires, a little bit of thought. Not a lot, because just about anybody can become a septic tank installer. Septic system installer. That it doesn't require going to school for it to do that in this county or in multiple counties around here. You don't have to have a plumbing license to be a septic installer in this county. Maybe in other counties, New York, California, whatever, So what I suggest is keep it simple. Try to make sure that you don't have bad land for your septic tank. That'd be key. And then try not to put too many chemicals down your septic tank. And then you can get your enzymes back up by putting Red X and things like, not Red X, but I think it's Red X is a brand that has little things you flush down your toilet to re-energize the enzymes that are down there, breaking everything down. Isn't that funny? The most beautiful person, all of them go to the restroom just like we do. I mean, that's not a pretty thing, but it's not like they don't. Okay. So consider, keeping things as simple as possible.
I like your hat. You look like an Italian boss fan.
Yeah, this I think it's a champ.
He's got more clothes than I do.
She has a collection of pictures of me with different hats. Maybe she'll turn that out as a slide or something, because it's amusing to her. I'll find a hat to put on, and she'll. I have a birthday cake hat somewhere around this place here. It's got 3 layer and the husband
It's
and
a
wife
wedding cake.
wedding cake hat. No, I said birthday, didn't I? Wedding cake hat. So, and it has a chin strap and everything. But I've got a lot of different hats. Thank you. Uh, I have a hat that's got built-in braids. Oh, have I? But yeah, it allows men to dress so that they can be identified. A woman can wear this. A woman can be a cowgirl, and she can dress just like a cowgirl, or she can just dress like a regular woman in a dress, and she can be a woman in anything, in a rock and roll scenario. A guy can't do that. He's got certain things that he's got to look like in order to be accepted by that group. The cowboy hat in the cowboy area, the redneck with the redneck hat, the rock and roller with, he's got to have a certain look, and I try to change it up. I don't want to be pigeonholed, and I would like to enjoy things. Thank you. So, uh, I think most of what we all go through is that we don't understand that there's so much joy in whatever it is that we have. An imperfect home, a house that needs to be filled with new surroundings, but you do it one at a time. And you can take joy in what you accomplish. There's a joy with the work of your hands. Or if you're helping somebody else do it for you, there's a joy to seeing your choices making it something nicer. But, birds think they're doing a good job with their nest too. They're not unhappy, angry birds because the nest is not the way they want it, not as good as the other bird's nest. We need to be happy with the nest that we have. We need to be happy with the people that we have around us. I have a coin, I misplaced it.
This might sound weird, but the thing I love about mobile homes is the simplicity of them. You can customize them however you want. You can also make them look very modern with the right upgrades. That's very true.
They used to send me when I worked for Harrison Home Center and with Fleetwood and with Oakwood. When they would send me out to the trouble, angry people because they bought a brand new home and they were unhappy with it. They saw these homes. It wasn't like they looked on a catalog and it just didn't look like the catalog. They saw these homes as a model and then had either bought the one that was there or they had one just like it or just similar to it sent to their property, and now they're unhappy. So the things that they point out are that these doors are not very good doors. They're not like a house. This has batten strips all over the place instead of finishing the drywall. And I don't want to make them feel bad. So like, well, you saw that. Why did you think that it was going to be different? And what I do is tell them, hey, what this is an affordable home that you can make it to whatever level of beautiful you want as you can afford it. It's a way for you to get started and have that package to put in 6 pane or 16 pane glass doors with glass knobs. You would have to change the frame, put in trim that's not paneling, and you can change the cabinets when you can afford it.
The Childress family says, keep the live stream going. I enjoy it.
Thank you. Hey, you know what? I enjoyed watching you guys sing. That was neat as all get out. That kind of gives me an idea of what we all kind of miss as a family that we don't. We used to, and when I was a kid, we used to put puzzles together as a family on a table, and it was quite the achievement. Quite often we would run like some kind of, put it in a picture frame if we could find one, and everybody could look at that as a family, that what they did together. But when you work on your home, or when you work together in a business, you don't want to take that for granted either, because the family did those things together. So yeah, that's one thing I appreciate about you guys' videos, the fact that you guys are doing that together. That's special now. I'm telling you, you did it as a family. A spectacular, unusual now. Keep it up. Um, and I'll try to keep on doing this. This is my viewpoint, was to share with people as much as I could the things that I've learned. And I'm not saying that I have learned it all. I actually am learning how to do air conditioning, how to get an HVAC license. You might think about all of you guys, this guy. It's an app called SkillCat, and it teaches you way more than air conditioning. But believe me, the air conditioning thing is complex enough and simple enough. But $10 a month, you can learn how to get a certified HVAC license. Doesn't mean that they're gonna hire you because you have no experience. That's another obstacle. But now you can work on your own air conditioner. How's that? If you learn it, pick up the tools. But it also teaches you electrical. If you want to take the time to do that, plumbing, building maintenance. The one that struck me as interesting is solar. So SkillCat is the name of the app. And I suggest that in the future, where we don't have enough people in the trades, we might need to know these things, guys. And it don't cost that much. And you can do it at your speed. You don't have somebody saying, you got to do something now. No, you can get to it when you feel like it. When you don't feel like learning, you don't have to be doing it. But it's called SkillCat, and they're not paying me a thing. Okay, I'm paying them. So I suggest that you pick that app up and learn how to do air conditioning, even if you're just supervising the guy that's going to be working on your air conditioner. SkillCat, and there's so much more to learn, and that's what I'm sharing. You know what? If I'm gone, I have some 23-year-old boys. They're 40 years younger than me. If I'm gone, they have a reference for as long as there's internet or electricity. They can see me talking how I felt about things. So even if nobody watched, they could use it as a reference. So I'm grateful to the platforms that my wife has put me on. I'm grateful to her. And she and I were talking about today that on the way over here, it's about a 30-minute drive, that we don't wait until a Christmas time or a birthday or a holiday to be kind to one another or to give a gift to one another. We just don't wait. We go ahead, and if we can afford it, we do these kind things for each other. And quite often the kind things don't cost anything. So why don't we all just kind of figure out ways to make our relationships last, because they require maintenance too, just like everything does. Try to be kind. I was going to tell you that a coin that I usually carry in my pocket, it says, be pleasant until 10:30. The rest of the day will take care of itself. It's kind of hard sometimes to be pleasant until 10:30, especially if you just had a flat or something. But if you keep that rule in mind, be pleasant until 10:30, and the rest of the day will take care of itself. You know, Christina listens to Jordan Peterson and such as that, and he talks about make your bed first thing in the morning. That's actually not just his; that's a number of people. So when you come back, you'll at least have the joy that you have a made bed.
The light says, I think what stops people from learning or fixing things on their own is the fear of starting. I found out with owning a mobile home, it's all doable with a YouTube search and so many more things.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I think, and Christina had a shirt for a long time. It says the
I still have it.
Does she still have it? It's Mark Twain, who was actually Samuel Clemens. The secret to success
It's starting.
is starting. The hardest thing you're going to do is to get
Start.
started. If you make a mistake, you can come on over and do it again. But now you have the experience now not to do it. But you don't want to burn your house down. But that fear numbs your mind. So how about you just start off on a basic thing that you know you're not going to destroy something, you know. Don't worry about it. If you do, you could be happy in the smallest of things. You learn along the way. And man, all this information that's out there, there's no way. I think YouTube is still, and Google, there's no way that they can ever, and particularly when they have their own mind about what you should watch, that you're ever going to see all the things that exactly the way you need to see them. They're just a pretty good guide to the city of LA with no street signs. The internet is a massive, massive city, bigger than any city we can imagine, full of all kinds of information, and they kind of say, this is where we suggest you go. This is the one where everybody else goes. Might not have anything to do with what you want, but you know what? The adventure is learn and then do. I mean, how many times do you hear of somebody saying, hey, you remember that time we were looking at a video online? That's such a fantastic memory. Remember that time? That's not what happens. The memories are made by what we do, not what we watch on a phone. Okay? What we do is what our memories will be. Not sitting on the couch watching TV, not looking into the computer. You can learn things, but you got to do things or it serves no purpose. You can be the best video game player in the world, and then 3 years later, that game is, who cares? They got a new game out. So all that time to be good at that game is gone. That time you don't get back. I have a app on my phone. It's a time counter for the year. How many hours are left in the year? It's to keep a sense of urgency to me. I don't want the whole year to go by and not accomplish what I want to accomplish, or just look back at the year and say I could have done a whole lot more. I don't want to have my phone tell me I spent 6 hours on my phone. I would be better off stacking Q-tips and making a castle out of them, because I would have something to show for my time. So I'm not saying I'm anti-electronics. I'm saying they are a tool and they should not take over your life. But man, the information we have out there,
It's amazing.
it's powerful. And kids could, in reality, if it was just the knowledge is available, the kids in the future could be the most successful generation ever. But I don't see that because they spend too much time on the phone. Too much time. And not interacting with other people. As a matter of fact, most of them don't want to have children because they're scared.
This may be off topic, but have you heard about those hybrid washers that wash and dry?
Yes.
In one?
Yes.
I haven't.
Yeah.
But that I'm not sure I would like.
But if it breaks down, you lose your washer and your dryer.
Yeah. I'm too dependent on my washer.
I don't know. It's not the newest thing anymore. It's been around a little while. So they probably are better at it. It's better not to get into the latest thing because it's going to screw up. And the people who are doing it know that they are the latest thing in their hurry to get it out. So there's mistakes made. There's plenty of vehicles out there, electric vehicles, the ones that just come out, their first one, that model is usually a bad example of what it will be, so, it might be okay now. If you're trying to cut down on your space, that certainly helps you out on your space. I don't know what their cost is. That's kind of a neat idea though. The stackable ones are not cheap either. The one on top of the other, they're like $1,000, $1,200. Even used, sometimes they can be that much. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I think when the first front load washers came out, there was a lot of issues with the ring, but I think they've gotten better at it now. The problem I've run into with washers with me is that the bottom, instead of being made out of metal, it's made out of plastic, and the brackets and things that are tied to it, they break. And so, yeah, so it's neat. By the way, there's another thing on that skill cat that teaches you how to work on appliances. I haven't looked at that yet.
I get nervous around electric stuff. I know it's trendy, but don't think I would trust an electric zero turn. Batteries are very expensive.
Yeah, I've worked around them. When it gets really cold,
That'll work.
lithium ion doesn't work.
When it gets really hot,
When it gets really hot,
that'll work.
that it doesn't work. And when it gets a certain amount of age, it deteriorates. But riding mowers seems like you got to have them sent in almost every year for something.
You would know about that.
Electric mowers are probably going to have their own issues, and I don't remember them being cheap. So I know several people that have them and they like them, but one couple I know has one. It doesn't make it up the steep hill, but it's cool for There's the ones that I think are really neat are the ones that keep your grass mowed constantly.
Or
And
the automatic ones.
yeah, they're like a little robot that runs back to a little cage and charges itself up and runs around.
That's because he doesn't like mowing grass at all.
I'd rather cover it up with stuff that's worth having than or have somebody else mow the grass. I would think my time would be better spent than. I mean, it's therapy to mow grass probably to a lot of people. I have more than one zero radius, and through the years I've helped run grass mowing businesses, but it's not thrilling to me or therapeutic to me. I'd rather spend my time doing other things. But I understand where it would be.
Chickens.
I'll tell you something that's therapeutic to me that may not be with other people is flowering trees and just flowers. There's something about that that's fulfilling because that's beautiful growth that may not just last but 1 year, but you had something to do with it. You changed the surroundings that you have, and you made something come up. It's just the neatest thing. But yeah, electric, you know, battery powered things are. I think it's just like everything else. It'll settle down to be what it can do, and that's all it can do. It's the idea that AI is going to take over everybody's job. Well, that's not going to happen. I mean, it's just not going to happen. The guy who pours concrete, he's going to be taken over by a robot. No, he's not. Because the guy who works on your house is going to be a robot. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Too many variables.
I promise you, it's not going to happen. And if somebody's got to work on the robots. You're going to have robots to work on the robots, and then who's going to work on the robots? It's chicken and egg thing. So the battery things, I think the battery cars, the wind generation, the solar power, all those things will have their place. Do I think that they can power whole countries? No. You need a little bit of all of it. And will there be a limit? Yeah. Like the big windmills that get tore down by tornadoes? Maybe that's not a great idea. But who's to know that there was going to be a tornado hit that one or two or three?
Anywhere near where we live is going to get.
Well, this is in Iowa. They tore down great big windmills. Everything will have its place. But lithium ion, once it catches on fire, you can't put it out. You can put a vehicle in water or a battery that's on fire, a battery powered. There's videos of a battery powered stack of bicycles. One caught the other one on to the other. They drug them out to the curb and they tried to put them out. They thought they got them out. They caught fire again. Lithium ion batteries generate their own oxygen when they're burning. So I would be careful about battery lawnmowers and anything else inside of your garage or anything else that could catch on fire. I mean, I know that sounds panicky, but check into what I'm saying. Cars are setting their houses on fire. They're burning down
5-story
car garages in England and on and on. Cement trucks that could move this heavy cement, and they end up burning down very dangerously. So you want to be careful about batteries that are lithium ion in particular. The newest ones coming out will be sodium, I think. I'm not claiming to be an expert at that, but sodium batteries are have been in there. So I think that they have their place, but you want to be careful about putting them in your house in a flammable area, because if they catch on fire, the Norse, the Viking kind of guys, the Norse people have figured out how to put them out, how to put a burning car out. They take a refrigerated ocean water, brine water, salt water, refrigerated salt water, slam a pipe through the car, and then just flood that car with cold salt water. It puts it out. So how many fire departments do you think have refrigerated salt water and a pipe to slam it through that they can pump in? Be careful about battery powered cars.
Have you ever dealt with mobile homes that have an extreme rodent infestation? Oh, holy hell,
Yes.
have we ever?
Yes.
My neighbors have problems with them, but I haven't seen a single one since I lived in my home. What do you think? Mouse traps. There are some evil looking mouse traps.
Yeah, the mouse traps are the best. They're plastic. They have a square look to them, and you peel it up, and
it's got pokey on either the top and the bottom.
Yeah, we might ought to do a video on that. But the poison's all neat and everything, but what happens is they crawl off into your clothing and die.
Or your animals eat them. But the best thing that we've found...
it's not efficient. Every year, rodents are everywhere. And so are roaches and everything else.
But we live out in the country, and every year, spring and fall, we get invaded. And it took me forever to find something.
Yeah, we would win with poison some, and then the rest of them would get away from it. But it's if you understand how fast a mouse population or rat population can grow, look into that.
If you've seen one, you have 100.
If you've seen one, you've got a bunch more. And there's an actual study they did in, I think, in the late 60s or 70s called Mouse Utopia, or something similar to that. You'll find it where they do studies on what mice would do in perfect, where they have all the area they need, the food they need, the water they need to be successful.
How quickly they would breed.
Yeah, it actually they did that study 30 times, and every one of them showed that people living on, or mice living on top of each other, eventually end up wiping themselves out. Not because they're all killing each other, but because they literally don't see fit to raise children. That's all on the internet. It's not something I'm making up. And it was done a long time ago. They know that if we live on top of each other, that we eventually will not have normal children, and the children won't have kids. They know that, because that's what it does in the animal kingdom. We're not meant to live on top of each other. Like New York, like LA, like any of the big cities, we're not meant to do that.
We're not meant to be away from green spaces.
We need to be, close to know each other, but, not totally alone in the desert or something. But, Mouse Utopia, you can look at that. I think it's got another name for the study, but it'll pull you to that in Google. So, you can have, in a short period of time, you can have thousands of mice. So if you don't get rid of them, and same way with the boring bees, if you don't work at it, you're going to end up with a whole bunch, because their babies will come out. So you need to if you understand what's coming, you need to get on it and stay on it. And if you don't, you're going to end up with a problem. Uh, and we figured out the best for roaches also. It's a paste. I forgot what Advion makes it,
Yeah, Advion. I get it from
and that works.
my pest control.
It's online.
It's an online
It's
company.
Advion paste. We didn't have any real issues until such time as I moved the dumpster within 100 yards of the house, and all of a sudden we started having problems. But I don't have as much an issue of people dumping that don't actually live in the mobile home park.
Which gets expensive.
You know, so if they like dump furniture into the dumpster, I have to pay $50 for each piece of furniture. So if I'm able to see them do it, you know, so I had to get it within eyesight of my place. So yeah, and then when I did that, I ended up having to battle with roaches initially, and we've learned that the sprays that they used to work really well don't work well anymore.
And I can't use them because I've got
And she's yeah. I used to have a lot of angelfish way back in the day, and every time I sprayed or I hired a pest control, they'd kill all my angelfish. Those pretty fish, just delicate as they could be, they were sensitive. So Advion paste, that's been, they have, you know, in theory that if they get used to the one, they have another flavor and then another flavor.
There's like I think 4 different kinds.
We've never had an issue.
Yeah, we've actually switched.
Oh, she has. She has
Yeah.
switched. I've never. I
We
would.
don't put it out.
Yeah, she takes care of it. We studied up on it. That's the best thing that's worked for us. Avion paste. So on mice, the poison is not doesn't it doesn't keep. Not every mouse is attracted to that.
Mhm.
So you got to find something that you know that mice might be attracted to, and even then, you need to put it in a traffic area. So I wish you all the best. And if it gets to you, you need to act on it. Same with those boring bees. You know, you're under siege. All the wildlife tries to move in, like into the ductwork on a double wide, underneath the house and thumping around. Or armadillo can be thumping around, jumping. You know, he don't know what. You know, he's
like, hey, this is a warm spot.
yeah, it's a nice place. Pack rats will move in.
Oh my god.
So all those things you need to keep up with, and don't let up until the battle is done. All right, guys, I'm gonna tell you that try to find a way to keep it simple. Keep it simple. Stupid is what I tell myself. Enjoy the things you have. Be happy as a person, and knowing full well that something could be totally different the next day.
Thank you so much for all you do.
Hey guys, I'm going to let you go, and I'll see you next week if you want to. See you later.
Just a happy Memorial Day.
All the best, guys.
Children's family bought a new Ryobi battery. I like it, but the battery doesn't last very long. No, they don't. The Ryobis. Talk to you guys next week. Make sure that we've stopped.
See a pin?
Huh?
See a pin? How many people we have watching?
We got 10 views. 12 views.